Dr. Richard Fine holds a Ph.D. in international law and was a former U.S. prosecutor in Washington, D.C. He challenged and refused to respond to Judge David Yaffe's illegal order and was incarcerated in the Los Angeles County Men's Central Jail for over 18 months, where he was held in solitary, coercive confinement. Finally, Judge Yaffe relented on Friday evening, September 17th. Dr. Fine is now a free man. He gave full disclosure this exclusive interview in his home 2 days after his release, where he described the conditions of his confinement.
The lights were on 24 hours a day. Out of the 18 months, there were only, I think, 3 days that the lights went off at night from approximately 12 o'clock at night until 5 in the morning. And the cell was freezing. I mean, that cell was in the 50s at some point in time. And because the building was so old, parts of the building would freeze and the other parts of the building were overly heated.
Hygiene conditions were very Spartan.
You get a shower every other day. There's no such thing as a daily shower. And in my case, because I was to be kept separate from everyone, I always was able to, I showered alone. You always hear these jokes about the jail and everything else, don't drop the soap and these types of things. I never had to face any problems like that. Every once in a while, they used to forget me in the shower. And normally a shower might be anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes or so. Sometimes they would forget me. I might be in there for an hour, 2 hours.
The conditions were barely tolerable.
I was in that cell 24 hours a day, unless there was a visitor that came, and the visiting days were Thursday through Sunday, and you could get one visit. You could have up to 3 people on that one visit coming in at the same time, but only one visit per day.
Treatment of jail inmates is established by the color of their jumpsuits.
In the beginning, I was supposed to be in a red outfit because I was contempt of court, but they didn't have any red outfits, so they had me in an orange outfit. And I remained in the orange outfit for, I'd say, approximately 16 months. And then suddenly they brought up some gang people who were breaking gang injunctions, so they found some red outfits, so I went from orange to red. My feeling is I suddenly became déclassé because the orange outfit were the high-class felons. And so there were the murderers, attempted murderers, dope dealers, and everything else. So it's pretty classy in an orange outfit in the jail. Red outfit, you're just a contempt of court person unless you're a gang member that's broken a gang injunction. And you take a look at me, I'm not looking like your typical gang member unless you have the gang members of the over 65 guys. So I might have lost some status.
Over the hill gang.
The over the hill gang, yeah.
Being that torture is not allowed in American jails, Judge Yaffe had to resort to more civilized ways of persecuting Dr. Fine. During his first few weeks in jail, Dr. Fine was first placed under the humiliating status of suicide watch. After a time when he refused to relent, the jailers gave up and put Dr. Fine in a regular cell.
So then they shifted me to the final cell that I was in that didn't have a desk or a chair, but it did have a telephone. And believe me, I was very willing to sacrifice the desk or the chair for the telephone, because having the telephone was something that allowed me to communicate with the outside and to get the briefs done and everything else. Otherwise, I would only be allowed to use the telephone for maybe an hour a day or something else in this order. I would have never been able to have written my briefs or have been able to done the petitions or anything else.
We asked Dr. Fine if he was tempted to give in to Judge Yaffe. He immediately said no, but there were difficult, emotional times during his incarceration.
I think the darkest day was the day that I found out that the U.S. Supreme Court had turned us down. In that point in time, that I fully recognized that the corruption, when I use the word corruption, not only the corruption of the payments, but the attitude of the abuse of power to allow the corruption to exist and stay within the system had gone so far that the entire system was undermined.
Learning that the entire United States judicial system is a series of good old boy clubs that protect each other's follies would dishearten most people, but not Dr. Fine.
But that day then ended up with greater resolution, because you have a dark day and then you come back and you say, well, let's recognize it. If this is what it is and it's this bad all the way up, we've now shown it, we've now proved it, and we go on from there to fix it. I can sit here today and tell you, based upon every brief that was filed and based upon every Supreme Court decision, that I should have never been in jail, and that every court avoided their responsibility and did not follow the law. And I can say that with true certainty. Very few people can do that. But now, because of what we have done, because when I say we, I'm referring to the team and myself, because this was truly a team effort, because what we have done, we have shown that to be true. And there is nothing that a U.S. Supreme Court justice, a Ninth Circuit justice, a U.S. District Court judge, a California Supreme Court justice, a California Court of Appeal justice, or a L.A. Superior Court judge can say to the contrary. We've shown this to be the case. This is now a proven fact.
When criminals are convicted, they are sentenced to a specific period of time. Sometimes they're punished with solitary confinement. Dr. Fine was never charged or convicted of a crime, and yet he was sentenced to an indefinite term of solitary coercive confinement. After a year of this unrelenting punishment, most people would be worn down and broken. Dr. Fine never wavered. How was he able to maintain the mental fortitude to never give up, we ask him.
The way that you do it is that you become very spiritual. By being a spiritual person, you basically end up believing that no matter what happens, it's all going to turn out right. It's not going to turn out, may not turn out the way you may think should be right, but in the totality of events, it will turn out right. So it's a real lesson in learning we don't control what happens, and just keep doing the very, very best that I had, because I didn't have control over Yaffe, I didn't have control over the Supreme Court or anything else. But I had the basic belief, and it was confirmed. There is someone upstairs taking care of me. And not only taking care of me, but showing that we as a country will actually prevail. Everybody's been fighting to keep me in jail, and suddenly I'm out. It's very interesting that following the procedures didn't do it. But something happened to Yaffe to make him admit that I was in there from the beginning as a deterrent to any other attorney. I mean, imagine the impact of that, to come out 18 months later to say that this had nothing whatsoever to do about the case, about paying money to the county, about revealing assets or anything else, that this whole thing, bottom line, one little sentence, I was there as a deterrent. I acted as a deterrent to any other attorney who would think of challenging them on this set of facts. And what is this set of facts? The judges are getting paid off. That's what it was.
This is just a short preview of a 3-hour interview. Dr. Fine was disbarred and his law license taken from him as a part of the persecution, and his home is in foreclosure. Friends of Dr. Fine are setting up a fund to restore Richard Fine. If you would like to contribute to the fund to help restore Richard Fine and our judicial system, please call us at 1-800-867-7777, and we'll tell you how you can contribute. I'm Leslie Dutton. Thank you.